Hornpod, Hornpod, Hornpod. It's the story of a Jamaican country boy who comes to the big city with dreams of becoming a reggae star, but ends up exploited by the music industry, cheated by the drug trade, and eventually gunned down by the police. It's Jamaica's first feature film, a cult classic, and is widely credited with introducing reggae to the world. It's The Harder They Come, and it's our first movie in the Hornpod Film Club.
The Hornpod Film Club.
Wow! We've got a film club!
I'm JJ Loy.
Oh, and I'm Matt Wixon.
And we have a very special guest for our very first episode, Heather Augustyn. How you doing?
Hey, everyone. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for being back with us.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here, especially for this inaugural podcast. Quite honored.
Oh, yeah. And now the maiden voyage of the Hornpod Film Club.
We've been kicking around this idea for a little while, and we finally got the gumption to really kick it off. And
because JJ and I both love movies,
and I feel like there's a lot of movies that like kind of fit with the ska scene too, and maybe some that aren't as obvious as others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is an obvious place to start, though, right?
It is. It's the first movie that was filmed in Jamaica. So, well, I mean, parts were
the first Jamaican production.
Right. Yeah, because we've got like Dr. No and things like that. But yeah, so it's kind of a big deal.
Ooh,
so.
Dr. No.
Yeah.
We should put Dr. No on the list.
Put that on. Yep.
Byron Lee.
Well, that's part of it. As we do this film club, I definitely want to be hearing from the audience. I want to hear recommendations. What movies should we be doing?
Yeah.
It's not just going to be ska. I want to do reggae. I want to do punk. I want to do all the movies that
you want to do punk? Hold on a second.
Kinda. I'm not saying which punk movies, but I think maybe a couple of punk movies might be important.
All right, maybe. We do have a list already that we've started that will take us, like, if we do one a month, which is our plan, will take us through the rest of the year at least, right?
At least,
nice.
Yeah.
But we would love to add more to it, and I think there's already something I've put on the list that I would like to take off the list because I regret putting it on the list. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how many movies we want to watch and talk about. Maybe we'll do all of these movies and then just be like, no, that was worth watching, but it's definitely,
Yeah, we might call audibles on some in the middle. But yeah, we might also be having some new listeners joining us for the first time just because of this film club, and so. Welcome. If this is your first episode, I definitely want to recommend like maybe checking out some back episodes, maybe the one that Heather was on where we inducted her and her first book into the ska canon itself, the first book ever inducted into the ska canon.
We did. I forgot we put her book in the ska canon.
That was so awesome, guys. Thank you.
We've had some fun on the show in the past.
For those who don't know Heather, she has written 11,000 books about Jamaican music, and she knows everybody that is still alive that has stories, and she's talked to all of them. and it's amazing the stories and the history that she's preserved in all of her books. It's not 11,000, but it's like 8 maybe. What do you
8. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, it's 8. Yeah, you're good.
You have a new one coming up, right?
I do. In fact, it will be out on March 8th, International Women's Day. So literally the only thing I have left to do is, and I was doing it right, but this podcast, frankly, is interrupting me from doing it. But I'm just finalizing the index, and then it's done. And it's called Rude Girls, Women in Two-Tone and One Step Beyond. So that's super fun. And there's over 50 women that I've interviewed for that book. So if you're thinking, wait, I can only name like 2 women or maybe 2 women plus the Body Snatchers or something like that, you're in for a treat because there are more than you know.
And this is after you've already written the book Songbirds about Jamaican women in Jamaican music. Now you're taking it beyond the other waves.
That's right. That was kind of my natural progression, was like, well, then I'll go to the ska revival and check that out. And the stories are pretty different, but then there are some similarities and stuff. And so it's really interesting.
Are you exposing the seedy underbelly of the ska world?
Right. I thought it would be like, feminist rant galore, but it really isn't that at all.
No?
It's really the stories are super inspiring. Yeah, of course.
Of course, there's horror stories,
Of
but
course.
That's gonna be a lot worse.
Right, but no, it's pretty inspiring, and I
Good.
think that you had mentioned punk earlier, and I think that's kind of the common thread is that all these women are like, punk showed us that anyone can do anything, so we thought why not, and so
and I imagine that the difference is like because two-tone was almost a branch of punk.
Yep.
It's a totally different perspective than like
Exactly.
Jamaican women had.
Yep.
At any point until
Right.
maybe the 21st century in the music industry there.
Exactly. Yeah. For Jamaican women kind of as a whole, they were like, yeah, we didn't have a voice and we weren't allowed to have a voice. And then for women in two-tone era, they're like, yeah, we didn't have a voice and so we got our own voice. It's like this whole different kind of ethic. So
Same situation, different reaction, right?
yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, good way to put it. Yeah.
Different technology, like social technology to handle the circumstances.
Definitely.
How one step beyond is that? Is it going into like modern day, or is it still kind of just sticking in
No.
the 80s in the UK?
So yeah, it's just the UK, like late 70s throughout the 80s, and of course some of these bands continue, so it goes down there. But the one step beyond is really like I can't really just stick with two-tone, especially because then so like the Body Snatchers, then do I not talk about the Bell Stars?
You're not limiting. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and just kind of went from there. There's a couple that are a little bit tangents, but still connected, like Bow Wow Wow.
For real?
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah, aren't they great? And so they're not, definitely not ska, definitely not two-tone, but toured with two-tone during those times and stuff, and still a super compelling story. So I thought, yeah, I can do this. I'm gonna do it.
It's justified. Why not?
Yeah.
And honestly, if anybody's like, you better not have Bow Wow Wow in this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Then, yeah.
Who's gatekeeping Bow Wow Wow? Show it to me.
Yeah. No, nobody's gonna say. I don't want to see that person that would say that. I want to tell it to my face. No. But yeah, there's a few in there that I know are really obscure, and then some that are more well known, like the Go-Go's and Bananarama. They were, they were involved in two-tone. So
absolutely. So do you like people to find your books on Amazon, or do you want them going somewhere else to find your stuff?
Either way, I'm not, if anybody wants to read my book, I'm grateful. So whatever, but I will be selling them through my website. I just have to get that going before then. Because if you buy it through me, Chuck Wren's going to be doing a free sampler for, I'm not sure how many, like the first couple hundred purchases. So he's gonna
like he did with Mark's book.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. So he's going to be doing that. So he's in the process of putting that together right now, which will be great. The link is skabook.com, and it's there. It's just that the link to make the purchase is not active yet because I'm not doing any pre-sales. Yeah, I'm not doing a pre-sales. So March 8th it'll drop.
All right. So we are here to talk about The Harder They Come. I assume we have all seen this movie before, correct?
Oh God, you wanted me to watch it before the episode?
No, I mean before this viewing.
Yes, I had seen it.
Like, for instance, I saw this movie when I was like 17, when I tracked down a VHS.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw it until I was probably in my early 20s.
Okay.
But
yeah, probably about the same for me. And then I saw they did in Chicago, they actually did a screening for another show called Sound Opinions. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that here because I don't, but anyway.
You can say anything.
Is that an NPR show?
Another music show. I didn't know if they were competitors or something. I didn't want to give them.
No, we're our own competitors.
Yeah. So
is Sound Opinions an NPR show?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I
guess I'd consider us competitors with NPR. I don't
know. There you go.
See? We're both talking into microphones, are we not?
We both have .orgs, don't we?
I think that you are at that level. But anyway, yeah, so they did a screening in Chicago at the Music Box, and Chuck Wren actually hosted it. So he introduced them, and everything was pretty cool. That was Greg Kot and Jim DeRogatis, and they screened it, and I seem to remember it was a sold-out screening. It was pretty good about 5 years ago. But I think the reason why they did it, and the reason why, if I can make an assumption why we're having this discussion today, is because the music in this movie is absolutely bonkers. I mean, the soundtrack, and they go through like 5 songs in the first 5 minutes, too. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But that soundtrack is really, I think, responsible for putting Jamaica and reggae on the map in many ways pre Bob Marley.
And I think that was almost the purpose of the movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like it was almost a long form commercial for the Jamaican music industry almost.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, because it even opens with like these beautiful scenes of, like beaches and.
Well, I wonder, because that opening scene, we see a lot of palm trees with their tops cut off. Like, it's not exactly idyllic either.
Yeah.
It's beachy, but it's also like something.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not a tourism movie.
No.
Let's get that clear.
No.
But I think it's like, because Trojan funded this, right? Am I making that up?
Oh, I've never heard this.
Or I mean Island.
I don't know. I don't know who funded it.
I could be wrong. Maybe it was just obviously they promoted the soundtrack, but I thought that they were involved with the production of the film as well.
Okay, man, we're already off to a stumbling start.
On Wikipedia, the Harder They Come soundtrack is on Island Records, okay? Okay, so
I don't know.
Also on Wikipedia, produced by Perry Hensel, uncredited Chris Blackwell.
Interesting. Okay, I love it.
If he's an uncredited producer, then he partially paid for this film.
Yeah, and he, even more to the point that we need to watch Dr. No now, because I feel like he's part of that story as well.
He is part of that story as well.
I don't.
All right, Heather is scrambling through notes right now. Looking to refute Matt's.
Because I'm like, what the heck? Well, I mean, I thought that.
It is weird, though, that so you're saying he was kind of like a silent partner, and like I'm saying that in the research I did, his name didn't come up. So,
I thought
was he trying to keep his name off of it?
I don't know that.
I don't think it was anything. In my opinion, I don't think it was anything. I think it was after the fact.
Kind of starting from the beginning, I guess. Like we were saying, we see this bus kind of driving from the country into the city.
Yeah,
carrying our hero like he's a regular Axl Rose coming from Indiana into the jungle. Yeah, and it is kind of a welcome to the jungle kind of scene we see here at the first.
It is.
I think we've seen it in a few other movies.
Yeah.
This kind of like you step off the bus and you're immediately hustled.
Right. I want to say the word burgled. He was burgled.
Yeah,
yes. He was.
Yeah, he loses all his shit right off the bat. He's got a mango for his mother, and he loses that too.
Right.
But what we really see is this kind of like documentary style of Kingston.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's ever said in the movie. Do they say it's Kingston in the movie?
I don't even.
Yeah, I don't know.
They must have mentioned it before he's leaving country to go into the city.
Okay.
But I mean, the audience. This was meant for, I think, meant for a Jamaican audience. So I think they would have known. Even I don't even think they had to say it, but the audiences would have been aware of this story too. The story of Ivan Martin is a story that they would have known because this was based upon a mythological / real story.
Well, okay, I don't mean to interrupt, but that brings us to our first phone call from Greg K here in St. Louis.
Hey, JJ and Matt, and just finished my homework assignment of watching The Harder They Come. This is Greg, by the way. The big question to kind of get the ball rolling is from everything I've seen and read about The Harder They Come, this movie is based on the legend of Reagan. So, yeah, what can you guys tell me about Reagan? I'd like to know a little more. Yeah, big fan of the show, first time caller, long time listener. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Heather, please tell us what you know about this kind of urban legend of Reagan.
Yeah, so it was so that everybody can take their stab at pronouncing it themselves. But there's a real person that was really named Ivan Martin. So this is our main character is Ivanhoe or Ivan Martin, and it's based upon this real guy. But Reagan is Rhygin. And sometimes there's another G on the end, some like Reiging. It was the character that Jimmy Cliff is playing. I just want everybody to know this is a fictional story. Clearly, the Harder They Come, but it is based on this story of kind of like an outlaw and
kind of a Jamaican Robin Hood almost, right?
Yeah, kind of. But like a guy that didn't deserve that guy. Encountered a lot of just couldn't get a leg up, just couldn't get trying hard, working hard, trying to do all the right things, and he just gets taken advantage of, and then he kind of has it and turns to kind of the underworld. So but that's it is based on a real story that took place in
well, he
September.
went on the run after shooting a cop, right? Isn't that the true part of it?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, it was in 1948. He was the real Ivan Martin was in prison, and he escaped from prison. So he wasn't in prison for murder. He was in prison for stealing, for theft,
burglaring
of the another burglar. He had burgled. He was guilty of burgling, and so he jumped out of the window of I guess it was not very secure prison, and he was on the run from like April until late August in 1948. So he became kind of like like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of a thing where he was
a folk hero. Exactly.
Like they knew that this was kind of the Jamaican hero. It would make for a good Jamaican hero. But anyway, so the two cops ended up cornering him at a hotel in Kingston, and he had two guns, blazing, just like in The Harder They Come, and he came out shooting, and he did end up shooting, one of them, and ended up.
Was he in his underwear, like in the movie?
He was in his underwear. I'm not kidding you.
I was kidding. Oh my goodness.
Nope. So the newspaper accounts that they like in 2000, the year 2000, the Gleaner did a series on it, kind of looking back at it and through their archives. And it says, after he had escaped from the hotel wearing only an underpants and barefooted, how far could he get? So but he came out shooting in his underwear.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So I guess stuff like that is based on the fact, like the underwear, the shootout, the hotel. Yeah. But the stuff that they added was the reggae music, the recording of the song, and the kind of making a hit and infamy out of that.
Right, definitely. The whole sound. Well, I mean, we know that the sound system producer, I mean, you can tell that's but that's not part of the original folk tale, but it definitely is Jamaican culture through and through. I mean, you can just tell this is like Duke Reed or Cox and Dodd, big time.
Yeah, it's a very time and a place. It's definitely not the 40s. It's not the telling of Reagan. It's not like a period piece in that sense. It is a slice of 1971, 72. All right, so So yeah, he gets ripped off by this pushcart vendor in the city, and he immediately that night tracks down his mother, kind of in the like a shanty yard.
Yeah, like Trench Town or something like that.
Yeah.
It feels like, yeah.
And she's not very sympathetic. She's got kind of a real cold heart towards him a bit.
Yeah, because
she's hard. I don't think she's cold. I think she's hard.
Well, I think it's like her mom had just died, and he was living with his grandma, her mom, and she had just died, and he says, grandma, basically like, grandma died, and we had to pay for the funeral, and she's like, is there any money left?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she's like, why didn't you tell me that she died? I would have come for the funeral. Well, we tried. Okay, do we have any money left? So yeah, she's pretty cool.
It's there's a pragmatism to it.
But yeah, it's not a greed thing. It's like, that's what I was going to say. It's like, it's
survival.
Like, she literally doesn't have any dollars. She would.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and you say the word survival, Heather, and I think that really it's the first whiff that this movie is about a different set of priorities.
Right.
And I think we're going to be challenged with that as the plot goes on. I don't, I think, what do you have to do to survive is a question, that is in the music and the movie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And especially like, how desperate do you get when every attempt that you make, people are taking advantage of you and you are just trying to survive. That's kind of the heart what's at the heart of this movie.
Right. And what does it mean, like, when asserting yourself means life or death too? Just stating your own claim to your own life.
Right.
Maybe ends another or hurts another. But not to add too much to that. Like, it is a simple scene, and I don't know, kind of an awkward little scene too. It's one of the few scenes where you can tell that there's a set. It feels a little bit more performed, because the next couple of scenes, you see Ivan approach a few guys in the yard and tell them, hey, he's heard about the movies. He wants to go see the movies at the Rialto, and they go see a cowboy movie, and then they go to kind of a card house, maybe arcade / casino kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you really get another taste. Like, the first one was on the city streets of Kingston, but now you get the sense that things are just kind of happening as they would normally happen, and the camera is just there.
A lot of that is how the film was actually made, though, too.
Exactly.
Because there wasn't a lot of script for a lot of these scenes, and a lot of it was just these guys kind of like finding their own way through whatever they thought the scene should be.
Yes, but more than that, the director has a realist style. And so I guess we're not just ska podcasters. I went to film school, you all. I am a film school dropout.
Nice.
And one of my professors was a big fan of Cassavetes and the realist style, the verite style of filmmaking. And I heard the director Perry Hensel talk about how there are kind of two types of directors: those who set up the action for the camera, and those who set up the camera and let the action happen in front of
Yeah.
And right off the bat, you get this sense that from this card room, that a lot of people in this room, maybe they know there's a camera there, but they don't know there's a movie being made. You know?
Yeah.
And there's maybe like 5 people on camera that are like acting, or even maybe just like aware that they're making the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very much in the environment.
And I don't know, it's just very fly on the wall, and I feel like it's very important to the like aesthetic of this. Like, you can call this movie cheap, or you can say like, oh, it's like not well performed. But I want to like really, like, before we get into it and whatever criticisms we want to make, like, it is a choice. Like, this is like, it is a style, and it isn't a very American French filmmaking tradition that I want to stand for.
That's fair.
Yeah. There are a lot of scenes that give that feel to it, where you feel like you are like an interloper, like you're just kind of like watching these things happen, and that you get, and that's why you get the real flavor for Jamaican culture and Jamaican life through this movie.
From the town now. It's like true. Side. One hot beer. What you drinking?
No, they are baby sham.
One baby sham for my girl.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
Boy, my singer friend put on drink 7 now. Who wanna drink?
I drink a stout.
Beer or stout?
This is a dark movie, and I don't mean that in a metaphorical sense. I mean it in a literal sense, like the way
In the lighting.
Yeah. So it can be kind of hard to see. So I know the first time when I saw it on VHS, I thought like, oh, I need to adjust my contrast or something, but it's really not that. It's that the film, with, I don't know, whatever they shot it on, or the film itself, or maybe it's just the vintage of the film, but it's dark. And so it can be hard to see, like, especially in a movie theater. So it's kind of like, a lot of times you're going like, what are they saying and what am I looking at? And then add to that we're outside of that cultural realm of being able to identify with and connect with the film too. It can be an odd experience to see this film. The one thing that connects me personally is the music.
Right.
I was just gonna say it's the obvious hook.
It is. Yeah.
See Toots and the Maytals like record a song. Like
I mean, yes. I mean that footage alone, like, is
so good.
It melts my heart. I'm like, God, I wish I could be in that studio.
I know.
I want
and we
more
are.
of that.
And there's no way that, like, I mean, sure, it wasn't a commercial success globally, and it didn't, but like anybody who saw it, there's no way they didn't want more reggae in their life, you know?
Right.
So,
right.
If we're going to talk about things we would change about the movie right off the bat, the first thing I would do is be like, the 2 studio scenes are amazing. I would put at least 2 more of those in of local, I mean, of live Jamaican song recordings of like stuff that we know just done live in the studio. I think it would just be like,
and like we're gonna talk
even more legendary.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about rockers in a later episode, and I'll say the same thing about the studio footage in that movie. It's just oh God, I want to be in that room.
Yeah. The Jimmy Cliff footage in the studio is equally as good, if not.
For sure.
Well, it's different. It's good in a different way. It's like it's so emotional. It's so emotional, that scene of him singing The Harder They Come.
But yeah, let's jump back here into the plot here. So Ivan he wakes up on the street after this night of hanging out and watching cowboy movies with the fellas, and I guess he kind of hears on the radio that Hilton is the producer,
right?
And so he goes to the Hilton studio and kind of just hangs out outside and watches a vocal group kind of fail an audition for the producer, who I guess is kind of Coxsone, kind of Duke Reed, kind of a generic.
Yeah, he's kind of a mashup.
Just a hard ass producer.
Big American car driving producer.
Ooh, didn't think about that. Yeah. Nobody else is really driving, are they? The cop and him.
Yeah,
him and the cop.
That's something to note, you know, the big American car, because that's a big deal.
Yeah. Big status symbol.
Yeah. Yeah. And a convertible, no less, too. So it's even flashier, very flashy. The wealth.
You get the sense that he's like a pillar of the community. And maybe you don't get that right off the bat, but by the end, you definitely get the sense that he is a somebody.
Not the connotation that pillar. We think of pillar of the community being somebody that is ethical and moral. That is not what this guy is. He's connected to
fair.
Yeah.
He's not really giving back.
You didn't. Yeah. I know you didn't mean that.
Okay, no, you're right. I said wrong. But he is not he's not a pillar necessarily.
No.
He is an other that sees the truth somehow. What am I missing? I'm not smart enough.
Well, he's connected to the seedy underbelly of the city too, I think. So that because he sees that it's all connected.
Right. He's speaking to the ecosystem of it all in a balance.
Also, he's kind of like, he kind of seems like he's just like a gangster in his own right. Like, like a mafioso kind of way, not just like a thug. Definitely. Like he's like a don.
He's a Don.
Yeah. Because like he's got
Right.
that relationship with the cops, and he's got that relationship with the actual thugs, and he's the one getting rich on all of it.
No, and that is
Right.
what I think a lot of people forget this about the Godfather is he is the Godfather. He's not the mob boss. He's the Godfather. He's the one that does you the favors and
Right.
gets the results. And
Right.
and there is a compassionate side to being the mob boss. So yeah, I think yeah, it is kind of a both. He's bringing people up, but also exploiting them at the same time, right?
And that's
Right.
very true to, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak to how true that is to any part of the story, but that's very true to the Jamaican music industry to have a record producer
Oh yeah.
be like that monolith of just power and wealth, dictator of taste.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Duke Reed used to be a cop.
Right.
You know? Duke Reed was a cop, and he,
He carried a gun on his
he
side,
carried,
right?
yeah, he carried the guns at his side as bandoliers, and he was connected to the gangs at that time too. Like the Spanglers or whatever the gangs he was connected to.
Mm-hmm.
And so was Coxon. So it's not an unfamiliar character to Jamaican audiences. This guy would have been somebody, and I do think that there are elements in both Coxon and Duke Reed that are present in that character that Jamaican audiences would have recognized, but they couldn't make it too much like one or the other. Otherwise, it would have been too recognizable. And if you notice in the studio, and I don't want to jump ahead in the plot, but in the studio,
Please.
his assistant that's sitting next to him, this Chinese Jamaican, you want to say it?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
It's Leslie Kong. That's Beverly's. That's Beverly's. And so that's Leslie Kong. That's really him. And this would have been about a year or less before he died, before Leslie Kong died. Mm-hmm. So this was something, when I saw him, I went, oh, holy hell, is that Leslie Kong? And then I started like looking at the dates and looking at like, when would this have been filmed? When was this released? All that.
Yeah.
And so it was released because I think Leslie Kong died in 1972, and this came out in 1972, but it would have been filmed before that. And sure enough, if you go on like IMDb, it says Leslie Kong uncredited.
Uncredited?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because
I think his performance is amazing.
Yeah.
Because okay, like I said, fly on the wall, who knows whether or not a movie is being made. Clearly, this production assistant knows the movie's being made. And he looks so put out, and not put out with the movie, put out with these little musicians bugging him. He's got to deal with this audition. It's maybe tomorrow. It's maybe next week. Maybe go fuck off.
Right.
The look on his face is so fuck off.
JJ,
it's so legitimate.
He's typecast? Do you think he was typecast?
I think that he sat down and was like, I know exactly who my character is because I have lived this so many times. So it may not have been fly on the wall reality, but I think it was very much like, I'm the guy to play this guy. And
I know my part.
Dead on.
Yep. He nailed it.
Absolutely. So like there is a musical montage at this point where we see a few images that I think are important to see kind of thematically. And that is Ivan looking very shabby, Ivan trying to steal some food and getting caught.
Yep.
Just threatened with a knife, not like facing any kind of legal repercussions.
Yeah. Is this when he goes into the wealthy lady's backyard, breaks into her backyard? Yeah.
Kind of begging, kind of showing that there are rich people here. This isn't just a poor shantytown city. There is luxury here to be had.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's kind of looking like a vagrant. He's walking through their yards, their front yards. And she's like, beg, beg, beg. That's all you do is beg. Why you come around here? Who let this guy in my gate?
Yeah.
And I heard she turned out to end up, she wasn't at the time, but she ended up being the first lady of Jamaica.
What?
She ended up marrying the prime minister, that woman, that actress.
I
wish I had her name here. Yeah.
Which prime minister did she marry?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Norman Manley?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to Google that now. Wow.
we see people rummaging kind of at the dump. So like we definitely see both sides. We see the future first lady of Jamaica, and we see people trying to find any morsel of food they can. We also see the resorts. We see somebody get into a convertible. We see a bellboy or a doorman run him off.
Right.
And that's going to come back later.
Where you got 10 cents, master? I was watching a car for you while you was away.
No, master. The steward always look after my car, man.
But you not here all the time, you know, sir.
No, man. If you want that 10 cents, go back to the steward.
Aye. What doing there? Get out, man. Get out. Get out, man. Get out here.
Right. I love those church scenes. I just want to say the church scenes, the gospel scenes, everything, because that's how Toots got his start. That's how a lot of Jamaican musicians got their starts, like singing in these. I don't know, but it seems like an Adventist, like a Seventh-day Adventist kind of a church, because they're really. But those scenes are so good. They're so like possessed by the spirit and the music. And the sweat, you can just see it, you can feel it, you feel like you're in there.
It's a real those
close-ups.
They're very visceral scenes. Like you feel like I feel sweaty watching those scenes, you know?
Yep. I'm like, somebody turn the fan on in here for these poor people. But the camera shots are very close up on the faces too. And so there's these really authentic. They're not acting, you know, like you were saying, JJ. It's like they're not acting. The action's happening there.
You say close up, but I would also add that there is still a very fly on the wall feeling of like, don't pay attention to the camera thing. And even they kind of add a point of view shot to show Ivan kind of peeking in through the as if to say, like, I'm the fly on the wall here.
Right.
You know?
And we're kind of seeing this through his eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
I was hoping maybe you could add something to this, and no pressure, but some of the girls in the choir are wearing graduation caps. And some of the girls in the audience are wearing like kind of makeshift berets. And it almost looks like they're from different like schools or camps. Or do you know anything about this?
I know nothing about it. No. I was wondering that too. I could guess.
I'll stop the recording.
Yeah, I can.
Get a real expert.
But I mean, I could get. Can we get a haberdasher here to talk about the hats?
We need a scabadasher.
Scabadasher.
Let's start a band, guys.
I love it. I tip my hat to you. But it was, I don't know. I could guess. And just, but that it would just be a guess. School uniforms are definitely a thing in Jamaica.
I get a definite uniform.
All one color, that the school colors, they all wear the same, you know.
I'll tell you what I know about mortarboards is I wore one when I graduated high school. I didn't drop out of high school, you guys. And Groucho wore one when he played a professor back in the 30s. So maybe there's something culturally that happened to that hat, you know, along the way.
I dressed up as a professor when I was 5 years old for Halloween, and I wore one. I just want to say that. Thanks for letting me share.
A little Spalding in front of us here. So yeah, but like the music, I guess it's worth noting, and I don't know, but this church here is got a plugged in bass and a plugged in guitar, and I think maybe even an organ is going on in there that's electric. And everybody is, like you said, feeling it. It's not even like that soulful of a song, but they are just like dipping and sweating and feeling.
One thing that I want to note about that scene too is that the preacher, I don't think it's that preacher, it's the other preacher that's the
father.
The cast member who's like, he notes that when he's making like his announcements to the church congregation, he tells them that he doesn't have their records yet because the master hasn't been returned yet from America.
Right. Yeah. So they sent off a recording and they need the master disc tape.
Right. I mean, that's what
plate.
That's what they end up taking. That's what Ivan, Jimmy's character, ends up taking down to the studio. But yeah, so that would have been the master copy of it being processed in America or prepared in America, whatever, and then now they can take it down to, a pressing plant, which they would have had in Jamaica, but the master had to be done in America. That's authentic. That's true. That's what, that's how the records were made. A lot of the records were made then.
And would it be that the same master would have to go down to the like federal studios or whatever?
That's exactly where federal studios. That's where all Coxswain's stuff went. That's where all of Duke Reed's stuff went. That's where Prince Buster, everybody's went, was to federal. Yep. And so I just thought that was kind of neat. It was
well, it gives him an excuse to get access to this place,
Exactly. So then when it does finally come, he's like, I'll take it for you. I'll take it down there. He wants to do a little favor and get into the studio.
Yeah.
I want to get there real quick. I just want to introduce Elsa, who he sees in the choir and kind of starts a little relationship with. And you kind of find out that the preacher has this
custodianship,
grooming kind of relationship. She's an orphan.
She's been in his care since she was a child, and people expect that she's going to be his wife someday or something.
And that's not treated as creepy so much as expected. And I think that's the weirdest part.
Everybody's like, well, no, no.
Everyone seems to be like, of course, this is preacher's woman.
He's put a lot of effort into this girl. Of course, he's going to end up with her. Like, what the hell?
I know. It's definitely what the hell, but it's not in that culture, really. Because
I get it.
Yeah. So let's look at Bob Marley. Okay. So Bob Marley's mom was 16 and his dad was in his 60s.
Oof.
And Bob Marley's mom was one of a number of young girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not.
And it's not, it's obviously not particular to Jamaica either, because you can go to any,
right.
No. And I'm not trying to put too much judgment on it, but I am just showing that it is a.
No, I know, but it's part of the movie and it's icky, kind of.
When you hear three different characters be like, that is preacher's teenager. Keep your hands off her.
Right.
Then you have to go clang, 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 clang.
Right. JJ, you can be judgmental about it. You should be, because I am too. It's creepy. It's creepy.
I think you have to be careful when looking at other cultures to project a modern judgment on that. It is not my place.
That's not a cultural practice. That's something global. I mean, that's something that men have to grapple with, I think.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say, is this is in no way, to criticize this is not a cultural criticism in any way, because this is not any. If it's a culture of 50% of the population almost.
Right. True.
This preacher kind of clashes with Ivan over
his property.
Music, over his property. Right. Ivan's kind of working in his backyard, kind of in the church's backyard, kind of doing repairs, fixing bicycles, stuff like that.
Right.
But really, it's about Elsa. It's about battling over Elsa.
Right.
They're like surrogate fights.
Yeah.
At one point, they're doing a little raindrops keep falling on my head kind of moment, a little bicycle ride around town.
Yeah.
A little cute little sequence. But the preacher is left kind of snooping around the yard, kind of snooping around this car that Ivan keeps, and he sees a stash of nudie mags, kind of a ray gun toy, and some reggae records. And I'm thinking, this Ivan guy seems pretty cool. I'm thinking this guy has some similar interests to the kid.
Well, I thought it made him seem like he was a kid, it made him seem like he was young, like he was a kid.
Yeah, but it's also to show how just sinful he is compared to the preacher.
Right. All his interests are just not what the preacher is interested in.
Yeah.
Now, it wouldn't surprise you that my dad is a preacher and I collect ray guns, nudie mags, and reggae. All right, anyway, so continuing on with this.
I thought that it was like a scene like to show that he wasn't worthy of being it. Like he's on the edge of being like in the transition between a boy and a man. And so the preacher was like basically showing by exposing this horde of his that he's still a boy. He's still young and that he's not worthy of his, essentially daughter and her, and her to be a provider.
I don't think that worthy is the right word because I don't think he's judging him as like somebody
Right, nobody's worthy.
that might take his daughter's hand or something. He's seeing him as competition for someone who might take his girlfriend's hand. I mean, it's similar judgments. Like, I mean,
no, you're right though. I like that.
The depiction of him is the same,
Yeah.
but like, I don't think he's protecting her.
Right.
He's keeping her to himself.
You're right. You're absolutely right. No, that's what it is. Yeah.
Like, yeah, the records are like offensive to him too. And
Yeah.
I find that like delightful, honestly.
Yeah, he calls it boogie woogie. Like his beef goes back to boogie woogie, and Ivan's like, we don't call it that anymore, man.
Okay, boomer.
You gonna make the Lord come back and find you doing this?
Doing what, preacher?
Boogie woogie and twist up yourself in my yard.
They don't have boogie woogie anymore, preacher. That's finished long ago.
I don't care what kind of fools you want to call it. I don't want it in my yard.
All right, preacher. Finished for the night, sir.
Oh, so even more, we were saying how the record producer has kind of these like he's got his interests in the police, the ganja, the music.
Yeah.
He also has like, I guess, like a little tendril connection to the church, like we were saying. The church has to deal with him to get out their materials.
Right.
And so, yeah, like we were saying, he takes these records up there and he sees Toots and the Maytals recording, and it is amazing.
Yeah.
These guys are charismatic as fuck.
Hot fire.
I can't like understate how seeing them in this movie like informed me hearing Toots and the Maytals. Like, I guess like when I listen to Toots, like I have a visual that I don't have of Desmond Decker, that I don't have of the Scatolites, like
right.
I have like this small crumble of a record of Toots,
Right.
And it's from this movie.
And it's not just Toots, because if anybody's seen, like, because, a lot of us, we've seen Toots, but it's not the Maytals, too. So to see this as that trio.
1972, yeah.
Yeah, to see that trio, that's really special. So I must admit, this time when I watched it and I was looking at the Maytals more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
but at the same time, I also, my image of Toots is as an elderly man now.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing to see him at
young
that time making those records.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a question. Like, I know that like kind of the seed of this movie started with Perry Hensel wanting to record stuff in the studio. He recorded a little of Jimmy Cliff and then kind of approached him about the movie after that, recording the filming. So I'm wondering if this is like I guess what I'm saying, are we seeing Toots and the Maytals lip syncing Sweet and Dandy here, or are we seeing the recording of Sweet and Dandy here? Like was the camera here and it was cut into the movie?
Because that is the version that we know, right?
Yeah, it is. Whereas The Harder They Come,
The Harder They Come is clearly not.
Right.
It doesn't look lip synced. It doesn't. I mean, they're smiling, but other than smiling, they don't look like they're performing. I mean, they're kind of dancing in a proud way, but like I don't get the sense that they're super performing. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. That's a really good question. I don't know.
That is a really good question. I was hoping that after you brought that up, we would have an answer.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know.
No, that was not from you. I was hoping that between the three of us, we would have an answer.
Yeah.
Because that's a really good observation. Because obviously, like I noticed you, like, because I've listened to The Harder They Come 1,000 times this week. alone.
Mhm.
And like you when you watch the movie, you're like, whoa, that's not even the version I know. That's amazing.
Right.
But then like the Toot song is like, but this
That's
is
it.
the version I know. How
Yeah.
what's going and like I never really put the thought into like why is that
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. 'Cause-
interesting observation.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope maybe I've raised a question that we'll find an answer in our audience somewhere.
Yeah. I will say though that at the time that this movie was filmed, though, like Toots and the Maytals were bigger than Jimmy Cliff
Mhm.
in Jamaica. They were more
Oh, I
popular.
bet.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were bigger. I don't know that we can really say that it's that way now. I think I don't know, but I think like Jimmy Cliff
Oh, I think Jimmy Cliff
bigger
far
than
eclipses
yeah,
Toots and the
I
Maytals
think so
now.
too. Thanks to this movie.
So we introduced Elsa, and she's kind of the love interest, but I really want to talk about the other guy that works in the churchyard, and that's Longa.
So he's the guy that takes back the bike, right? Is that the character's name, that he takes back his bike and he's like, "Oh, this isn't your bike."
Exactly. He's the one that Ivan gets in the fight. Yeah. I don't know. He's one of the guys that warns Ivan that the preacher's girl is the preacher's girl. And I don't know. He's very much like, this is the way it is. And Ivan's like, listen, Longa, don't mess with me, you know? And eventually Ivan kind of scraps with him, and I don't know. What do you think about the scene? I don't know. I don't know if it really plays all that well. The blood is very fakey.
So
I don't know.
It's extremely fake. Yeah, it's extremely
Yeah.
fake. So he gets knifed. Longa gets knifed, but it looks like a whole lot of like preschool red paint. It's like
Like
tempera paint.
It's like
Yeah.
C or D movie at best.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like Evil Dead purple blood. It's just like
Yeah, yeah, I found this in my toddler's desk kind of paint.
it's not very realistic. It's very harsh. It kind of takes you out for the first time. For a very realist movie, the fight scene doesn't really like,
Right.
I don't know. I feel like a more fly on the wall approach might have been better.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think I find that just that like knife sequence kind of off-putting because it doesn't seem like it fits.
No, you're right. Kind of comes out of nowhere.
It's hard to like the character for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you're not rooting for him to just like really just go to town on this guy's face.
At that point, Ivan is not like starving so much that you know that it comes out of desperation, because he's just had like this hopeful, like there's hope for him in this love interest. So it's not like there's so much desperation that leads to this violent scene. And then also, like, there's not enough buildup of hatred between these two to warrant that kind of violence too.
Or maybe it's just a buildup of Ivan's ego or something where he feels big enough to do this now.
Yeah, it's not a heroic move by any means. It's not a save the cat move, as they say, you know.
Is that what they taught you in film school?
Yeah, no, I'm printing out a film school paper over here. You guys want to read it on my dot matrix.
It didn't feel right for the character, but even just like that style, like that kind of like almost like horror violence didn't feel right in the movie itself.
Mhm. Yeah.
But okay, but is that also the slice of life? Is that also the way it is? Like, is that what they're trying to represent here? Is like, this may not be
Yeah.
fly on the wall like the other stuff, but like,
Yeah.
is this the kind of situation a regular guy would face? You know,
Yeah.
like, is that what they're trying to say?
If they are, that's the only, yeah, that's what I can get from the scene, is that this is
That's how hard it is out here.
That
right.
they're just trying to show that violence is also a claim that you have to stake. Almost.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. I think so. So we've got the starvation, that box is kind of ticked. Can't get a job, that's ticked. Now we got violence, yep, that's ticked. I think that these are the kind of aspects of trying to scrap to get by.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess when it comes down to it, it is like over the bike. Like, he fixed up this bike, and Longa's trying to take the bike, and that's that. Like, don't take my fucking bike.
The bike was also a source of pride for Ivan, and it was also now connected to his girlfriend. And so, like, to feel like this is something, like, the bike was like almost him. Like, he built up this bike from the pieces he found, you know?
With the one, it's the one possession he has too. It's the only thing he
Right.
has. But for Longa, it's power. Power, you know, like Longa doesn't need
Right.
it. Longa doesn't want it. He know it came from scraps in the yard. He knows it's Ivan's, but he can take it, and so he's going to take it.
Yes, I hear you, but I also don't want to correct you, but he also has nudie mags, ray guns, reggae records.
He's got a seat in a car.
He has
That's
a
right.
quality life. All right.
No, I gotcha. Funny.
You want dead? I will kill you. Don't fuck with me.
So where were we here? So he records he cuts up Longa.
Yep.
Did we mention that he scores the audition at the record producer? He scores an audition
Right.
opportunity with the record producer, Hilton. Then he cuts up Longa in the yard over the bike. Then he gets arrested. Now the judge gives leniency. The leniency is what? Several lashings. 8
Lashes.
lashings?
About the buttocks. Yes.
Yes.
That's a brutal scene, by the way.
It is brutal. I
Yeah,
mean,
that one's realistic. It seems more realistic than the knifing, I will say.
Yes.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And the way that they show it too is that where he's pissing himself in the barrel too, over the barrel. I thought that was a really effective way of showing by not showing.
Yeah, because that's a really disturbing image, but it's not like the disturbing image you're probably expecting, or
Right.
from another film or something.
well, okay. So, and if the first scene is trying to show you a kind of thing that you might be able to take pride in, like, oh, I would cut up a dude that would fuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then this next scene shows just how inhumanely you can be treated for that. Like, I'm not sure what to take from that. Like, is he being mistreated for correct behavior? Is his behavior wrong and he's being corrected? I feel like both scenes are supposed to be taken on equal footing.
It definitely it kind of looks like an eye for an eye, doesn't it?
But I mean, I saw it. I don't know. The way that I saw it was that it made me feel like it was an image of slavery. Like there was a hint of slavery there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there was some.
But it's
like,
it is a black officer delivering the punishment.
I know, but it's still.
Have you seen the news out of Memphis lately?
Oh, I'm not. That is not
Yeah.
lost on me. That is
Yeah.
not lost on me.
And it wasn't, to me, it was just that, like, it was this imagery, because they could have easily have doled out any other kind of punishment. But this particular punishment, with this kind of graphic depiction of it, I think it reinforces this power dynamic that Ivan has had his power stripped away from him. And so he's desperate. So they're setting up the desperation of this character.
I think it's a very dehumanizing thing. They're kind of just like, you're no longer even a person.
Right.
You're a piece of, I don't know, maybe property is the wrong word, but like something that can be severely mistreated.
Right.
without
I think
regard.
that's what the urine is supposed to say too. Is
Yes.
like this, he's been taken from his body in some way.
He's
Right.
been almost like stripped of like civilization, humanity,
Humanity, dignity. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
dignity.
I was raised on the movie Roots, and
Mhm.
that scene very much reminded me of the Kunta Kinte /
Yes.
Toby scene in that
Yes.
movie.
Agreed.
Whatever we're supposed to make of the juxtaposition between those two scenes,
Mhm.
I think what ultimately we're supposed to take away is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the third scene, the cap on that triplet is him in the studio. He's not only doing his audition, but it's being recorded. And he's got a cigarette in his hand, and he's got a look of fucking murder in his eye while he's singing a different version of Harder They Come than we know.
Yep.
The lyrics are different. It doesn't quite end the right way. And there's a hardness. And like I was saying earlier, like if they didn't put that scene in the middle there between getting the audition and doing the audition, the lyrics, I think, would miss a meaning. He has now been beaten physically by the state after some kind of violent assertion of his existence.
Right.
And now these are the thoughts on his mind. No one else wrote this. He wrote this song and he's singing this song.
Everything that precedes it has led to this point lyrically and in the plot. Absolutely.
And also, we know that he had this song before these events.
Yes.
But there's no way he could have sang it like that before the fight and then like the sentencing.
Yeah, so it's like it's everything that has come before, but it's also everything that's going to come. So it's just like this. The pivotal moment is the lyrics to this song.
Yeah, the fulcrum of the movie, really. Yeah.
You feel like you're closer to him than like the band is, than the producer even is. Like you feel like it's you and Jimmy Cliff.
Yeah. Like,
okay, I want to get like a little film schooly here because so we were talking about the Toot scene in it. I know, but I really want to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Okay.
If the Toot scene was maybe the recording of Sweet and Dandy, right? That actual archival footage.
Wait, I looked this up. And if the Sweet and Dandy came out in 1968, and there's no way this was filming in 1968.
Okay. No.
Well, no. But he could have filmed it then and edited it into the film, too.
From what I can tell, no filming was done before 1970.
That doesn't necessarily negate what I'm going to say, but like if what we're to take is that these performances in the studio are somehow just musical performances, am I drawing too much from the look on his face when he sings this because it's been presented in this edited collage style, montage style way? I'm seeing it in reaction to previous scenes, or is he acting in this scene? Is he singing Harder They Come as Ivan in that scene?
I 100% think he's singing in character, yes.
Me too.
I feel like it too.
Agree.
I really do.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I don't feel like that's Jimmy there. Yeah, it's Ivan.
His eyes, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There's in my mind, watching that movie, there's no doubt in my mind that he is singing as Ivan, not as Jimmy Cliff.
In the movie, the song is interrupted. And like, I don't know if you remember, like, I mean, of course you guys know. If you guys listen to old Jamaican music, it's not like the song ends. Oftentimes, the song just kind of turns down. And you can tell the band is going on and the producer has gone like, that's enough.
Yep, exactly.
And same thing goes on here. Like they're singing and playing and he's like,
Right.
And Hilton comes out with his briefcase.
You only have enough time for vinyl. It's like 2 minutes and 45 seconds or whatever it is. And that's it.
Okay, it looked like you didn't have time for him. He looked like he was on his way out the door. So he tries to get him to sign away all the rights for $20. And Ivan says, no.
That don't sound right. That's what he says. That don't sound right. And he's like, okay, what do you think? He's like, what do you think? What should I pay you? And he's like, 200.
Yeah. And he's like, so it sounds like you're the producer. It sounds like you need to pay the musicians and go find a market for this song. Like, it sounds like you own this song, not me.
Yeah.
And so he gives the guy the record. He gives Ivan the record and sends him on his way. No money. Like, you don't have my support.
Good luck, fucko.
Right. Exactly.
And to hear it from Jimmy Cliff did not get paid for his first song that he recorded at all.
No, none of them did.
And like this, like $20 to find out that this $20 is like a fiction, you know? They're like,
that was the pay. Most of them got £2 a side. For an A side, they would get £2.
So they don't explain it outright, but I kind of like, as I'm reading between the lines, the way Hilton, the character, talks about it, he's like,
Yeah.
if you had signed this paper, I would have paid the musicians as the producer. But since you're the producer, you owe these guys money. Because when Jimmy Cliff comes crawling back to him, he's like, and what are you guys doing here? You guys waiting around here for some money?
I tell the DJs what to play. Understand? Now what they all know what? Because Ivan don't pay now yet. But Ivan's supposed to pay now. I'm not supposed to give them money. Anyhow, come. And let this be a lesson to you, eh? Learn something from this next time.
Whatever, I'll pay you. Let this be a lesson to you. Let this be a lesson to my generosity, that I'll pay you for this guy's fuck up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how bad you fucked up. I'm this big and you fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's done too, for real. Like, I know that there was one studio producer who would say, okay, you want to come in and you want to record, then it's going to be, money and time to record. So I'll make you a deal. You record 9 songs, I'll take 7 and you can take 2. They would do it that way. That was a little bit later. Usually it was at the beginning. It was just like, I'll give you £2. Those are your wages. I knew some of them, the ones the musicians would clock in and clock out.
Oh yeah. So I guess Ivan goes around and he tries to sell this record on his own as the producer.
Yeah.
And the DJ's like, no, I don't do something against Hilton. He goes to the record stores where we see a nice little cameo by Prince Buster.
Yes. DJing.
I ain't gonna do shit without Hilton. Hilton says it ain't fire. I ain't gonna play it, like.
Right. So accurate.
So Ivan comes back, cap in hand. I'm so sorry. Please, can I take the $20? And like I said, Hilton treats it like a lesson to be learned, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Another lash. A metaphorical lash.
Yeah.
This is my favorite line though is he says, "This is show business, baby. No business, no show." I love that.
He's got the DJ voice. He's like talking like the DJs did.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Big T Show. Back in my home where the sweet soul sisters roam. My mojo working and my soul sort of cooking and smoking. Like we say, the T thing goes for 4 hours long, and it's the sound of soul and big boss country right here.
He's like, "But sir, it's a good record. Please play it." And he's like, "No, mm-mm." And that's the whole thing, is like everybody's connected. Everybody's connected.
It's like, no, we play Hilton records. That's not a Hilton. We don't play it.
Right.
Especially if if there's a history, like, oh, you're beefing with Hilton over this record? Absolutely not.
No. He's blackballed is what essentially happens, because he's like, watch out for this guy. He's a troublemaker, calls him a troublemaker and stuff like that. And he's essentially blackballed.
Hilton tells Leslie Kong in the back room, he's like, hey, put it out. Of course, put it out.
Yep.
Promote it just enough to get my money back. Like, I'm not trying to go broke on this. But
He's like, we got something. I just don't want this kid to know it.
He's basically showing, like, what he says later on. I tell the DJs what to play. He's basically like, you basically see it before he even says it, that him flexing that muscle. Like,
I make hits, not the public.
But almost like acknowledging that it has the ability to be a hit.
No, for sure.
He's almost like keep a cap on it.
Yeah, he's like, he literally, that's the exact reading I got. It was like don't let this get too big. Like,
right.
So, like, Ivan, though, doesn't know that side of it. He hears it on the radio. He hears it at the dance. And he's ready to, like, bank his whole future on it.
Yeah.
He's telling his girl, why are you even looking for work? I got a record. Like, why are you even doing this? I'm gonna be famous. Like, it's inevitable for him.
It's so sad. We really start to, pity him. I think this is when
he's got that like pathetic hustle mentality, and you're like, oh, dude.
Yeah, he starts to dress a little flashy. Starts to spend some money on himself. He's like got the hat. He's got the sunglasses, the shirt.
So it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like it's at this point that the drug guys are like, oh, here's a guy we can use. He's already been exploited by one industry. We
Yep.
can use them too.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, check out my song. And almost immediately he's like, yeah, I think I got some work for you.
Oh, a sucker, huh?
Like, and this by he, I mean Jose. Jose is kind of a lieutenant in the ganja trade.
Yeah.
I guess he kind of works by permission from the cops. The cops kind of let him run because they benefit from owning the crime. Instead of letting crime go wild, they sanction certain crimes. But yeah, there's also the cop, who I also don't know his name. But yeah, the cop kind of has a very pivotal role, but maybe doesn't quite understand the precariousness of his pivotal role. He knows that he's letting these criminals run, and he thinks that the criminals owe him something, but he doesn't quite understand, like, that they're kind of using him too.
Right.
Like, I think the cop thinks that he's got the upper hand. And he thinks he's an even player, and he's not.
He's so separated from it. Like, he doesn't even know what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But even now, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, Ivan notices that the drug trade is making way more money than he's making. And it's not so many degrees above him. He's seeing the real money is just like 2 clicks above his street level. And he's like, why don't I make more money? Why can't I make more money?
Right.
I mean, if they're throwing pot onto a plane to America, why can't I throw pot onto a plane to America? So he's starting to get kind of too big for his britches and talking too much. And they're like, well, since they're police sanctioned, they're like, well, why don't we have the police help us teach him a lesson? And so they have a cop try to pull him over, try to teach him a lesson, try to put him back in his place. But Ivan has experienced the hand of the law, and he ain't going back there. He's not going to do that again.
No.
So as the cop pulls up on him, he pulls the pistol from his waist and kills the cop. And now Ivan is on the run, and like the real plot of the movie kicks in. They don't really show it. How does he kind of take up with Jose's girlfriend at the hotel? How does this happen?
Yeah, I don't.
It just kind of yada, yada, yada. He's just in bed with this woman.
Yeah, and she's quite alarmed.
Well, okay, yeah. Does he sneak up on her, or is this like an affair? Like, is this a planned thing, or is this an assault?
I don't know.
It's a hotel. They say it's a hotel.
Yeah, it happens very quickly too, doesn't it? And I was just all of a sudden, I'm like,
it just jumps into it. Yeah. But I guess this is kind of like where one of the Rygen stories comes from, is that this is a hotel like Rygen. It's a shootout with cops in his underwear like Rygen.
There we go.
And,
right.
But unlike that, he does not die here. He kills, I think, 3 police officers and goes on the run.
Yep. Hunkers down for a while.
Oh, yeah. Back at home, Ivan is telling Elsa, I'm not going to run. She expects him to run because he's on the run from the cops. And he's like, I'm not going to go anywhere. This is me. This is me being famous. Like, this is it. This is what I signed up.
Yeah, this is the story, baby.
She's like, what the fuck? Like, you're crazy, you know?
Yeah. She's a good church girl.
Exactly. Like, yeah, I don't think she's ever on the same page as him. Like, I don't think she's ever like, yeah, you got it. Yeah, like you're gonna be it. Yeah.
You're successful. You're so talented. No, none of that.
Me, dreamer? Who's a bigger dreamer than you? Always talking about milk and honey in the sky. Well, no milk and honey no in the sky. Not for you, not for me. It's right down here, and I want mine now, tonight.
Oh, so yeah. So now he's on the run, and we see that producer guy and Leslie Kong kind of scrambling to find that record. They buried it. They're ready for it now to be a hit. He's on the run, and the cops are like, hey, don't make that a hit. And they're like, too late. It's already a hit.
Because it's in the headlines and everything.
Yeah.
He takes some like cool photos. Yeah, he turns it into the paper, and the paper is like, yeah, all right, we got some photos of this guy. And the cops are like, don't publish that. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, who else would offer us photos this great of like the top criminal in the country? Like,
yeah.
Of course we're gonna publish it. Like, you can't stop it.
He's got a hit song. He's he killed a bunch of cops. He's on the run. Like, everybody's talking about him. Now we've got these amazing, first of all, they're amazing photos.
They are, aren't they? And I love how they show the photo shoot happening too. Like,
right.
Like he's just posing in all these different poses, like classic, like,
like a gunslinger.
And
yeah.
it's in those photo sessions that I am introduced. I don't know how I missed this in my other viewings. I've seen it several times over the years, but I am introduced to my favorite cuss word, backside. A gentleman comes in, recognizes Ivan, and says,
Backside.
and then Ivan signs a picture for him, and then he says again, backside.
Backside.
He's
What?
so impressed.
How did I not see? I feel like that one psychology film where like you have to count how many times the basketball is passed. You don't see the ape walk across. I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
I'm wondering if I've seen a different edit this time. I swear I've never noticed this scene before, but this guy exclaims twice, backside.
What? I'm gonna have to go watch it now.
I don't have a great memory. This sounds familiar to me.
This sounds made up to me. I don't know what you're talking.
I think I'm gonna tentatively vouch for JJ.
But this guy kind of like epitomizes what's going on the street, is that like people are kind of proud of Ivan, even though like he's not like an admirable dude.
Yeah.
But they're like, go man, go. They're like, yeah, do it, you know?
He's an everyman. He's an everyman character.
That's also really Jamaican. Like, because I mean, obviously, like there's also the foreshadowing of them watching the Western like shootout earlier in the movie theater.
Right.
And like and it speaks to like the kind of this is part of Jamaican culture. Like some of the other stuff earlier was not. This is part of Jamaican culture, is like the idolizing of like the bad man. Like this, like Ivan is like the ideal, like
he's the man with no name. He's the man he's Clint Eastwood.
Well, the movie they were watching shows Django take out his machine gun and mow down all the quote unquote good guys. And then you hear one of the audience members say, the hero won't die until the last reel. Knowing full, so it's basically admitting the hero is A, a murderer, and B, will die for it. And that is exactly what Ivan goes through, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a foreshadow and a parallel, definitely. I was watching over the weekend. I was watching the Bob Marley documentary that came out. The Marley, the one that came out in like whatever that was, 2019, 2017, or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
And they show about like Bob Marley, the assassination attempt at Hope Road, where Bob and Rita were shot. And I think it's Bob Marley's attorney, Jobson, whatever her name is. She says something to the effect of, Jamaicans love a guy that walks away from a gunfight. Yeah, like they want like somebody that survived the gunfight. And so I think that my point is that why the public rallies around Ivan during this time is because he's the outlaw that has escaped the cops and the shootouts with the cops. And he's a hero because, everybody knows the cops are corrupt. The government's corrupt, that the bad guys are all corrupt. And they see him as a good guy, as a hero, that he's escaped.
He's sort of a Neo.
Did you say a Neo?
Neo.
Yeah, I'm like,
okay, gotcha.
He found a way out of the system.
Yep.
The special effects are on par.
Yep. It's bullet bending. Yeah. No, but I think you're right that he's and that's why the real Reggae is a folk hero too, is because he was on the lam. He broke out of jail and he was on the lam for like a few months and killed a couple cops or killed a cop or whatever. I mean, not that I'm whatever, but it's still, there's something about it's power. It's power. It's the everyman, the guy that's the country bumpkin or whatever that comes from Trench Town, that he's the hero, that he can even if it's just for a day.
There's almost like as if murder isn't the capital sin. It's almost as if like we shouldn't take this murder as so serious. It's the act of rebellion that we should focus on.
Right.
If we get focused on how much he fucks up Longa, if we focus on how many people he kills, if we focus on maybe what he did to that woman in the the hotel, he's not such a great guy.
Right.
But if we look at him as a character that is constantly rebelling against the
system. Yeah. Because I mean, and every hero has to be flawed. So you don't want him to be a perfect character. Otherwise, it wouldn't, the ending would feel super tragic. And you don't want it to feel that way. You want it to feel kind of like even people like me who are flawed, we still can't get ahead, like that kind of a thing.
Well, the ending seems to be very much of its time. I think about Butch and Sundance. I think about Bonnie and Clyde. I think about these movies that came out kind of at the late 60s, early 70s, where we have kind of these criminal outsiders that represent a certain cultural rebelliousness that maybe we can get behind, going down in a blaze of glory. And you got Butch and Sundance. It's just a freeze frame while you hear the gunshots. Then you got Bonnie and Clyde. You see every fucking bullet tear these two apart.
Right.
I'm struggling to remember what we actually see as Ivan gets finally gunned down by these cops. What do we? What is it? What are the shots? Or is it?
Well, I know that. Okay, so he's at the beach. He's at the beach at the end, and he's been betrayed by his friend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the ganja sellers kind of turn against him because the cops are starving out the town.
Yeah.
And he has one friend left in Pedro. Pedro's kind of the Rasta character.
Oh, the cops are like, no weed until you guys turn this guy in, right?
Yeah.
They've stifled the music. Like Hilton says, they stifled the pops. They stifled the food, the ganja. These people are now starved out, and they're ready to sell out Ivan, even if he is kind of a hero. And Pedro kind of takes him on one last afternoon, kind of a Rasta fantasy at the beach.
That's Elsa, right?
Elsa's there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little makeshift rowboat they sail around. It's really a beautiful. I'd say that and when Ivan gets to drive the convertible, at one point he kind of steals a convertible and drives it around for a little while. Those two scenes kind of give us the sense that what Ivan did is fulfilling in some way. Some kind of Rasta dream has been fulfilled, but also a material fantasy.
Yeah, I'm living the good life, kind of I'm driving around, because he's driving in a garden, gardens of the wealthy or something like that.
I think it's a golf course. I think he drives around.
He drives across the golf course.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
So there are these brief moments where okay, what Ivan did is led him to some idyllic peace. A couple moments, not much.
Right.
And it certainly didn't give him the love. Elsa never really came around to him either, right?
Yeah.
It didn't give him everything. But like we said, the cops do catch up with him, gun him down.
Yeah, so they come up onto the beach, as I recall. To me, it was they're storming Normandy. They come out this amphibious assault.
They're very army-like, yeah.
And they come up, and he's hiding in the bush. And I don't remember either. Do we see? I mean, I know we hear and see a hail of bullets, but I don't think.
It just feels so abrupt. The ending feels so abrupt. And what they cut to, he dies, and then they cut to a bikini woman dancing to reggae. And kind of just a crotch shot.
Right.
It ain't bad, but it's just it's very jarring. And I think it kind of removes whatever image we I remember Butch and Sundance because freeze frame. I remember Bonnie and Clyde because however long it took to watch them get shredded, we watched them get shredded. But whatever happened at the end of Harder They Come was this hard cut to bikini girl dancing to reggae music. And I don't know. I feel like it undercuts like the heft that I'm supposed
It
to
does.
feel.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe they ran out of funding at that point. I don't know. You get that feel. I got the feel like this is amateur. Like
And that's that. Get out of here.
And
scene. Yeah. So
that's a wrap on all of us.
But I guess I kind of chalked it up to just kind of it had an amateurish feel, but to me, I kind of that's kind of the appeal.
That's what kills me is I start this movie and I'm talking Cassavetes, I'm talking fly on the wall, I'm talking realism, I'm thinking choices for what they've done, and I really feel it. And then at the end, it's just like, did they run out of money? Is that what really happened? Like, did they run out of like 30 more seconds of footage to like put the button on it? I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
I don't know. It does kind of have, I don't know. It doesn't feel, it feels like it's a different kind of ending. It feels like it's a B movie ending where it's like, I mean, it definitely ramps up and then ends at the conclusion. Right? There's not like a denouement or any kind of like, here's Jamaica after this happened kind of shit. Like it ends when he dies.
Well, maybe it's a juxtaposition then.
But like I think that like just kind of maybe the clash of murder is probably the wrong thing, but like death in a hail of bullets and then just like dancing bikini, it's like, well, there you go. That's the 70s ending to a movie. What do you want?
It's what would have happened to Bond.
Right, like maybe it might have been like there's a big Bond Jamaica connection. Like that might be it for all we know. Like I don't know.
I think it's a juxtaposition to like, this is the real gritty Jamaican life. And this guy is the real Jamaican that's he's tried in Jamaica culture is like, he wasn't able to get a leg up. But then the bikini, the torso, like gyrating and stuff like that, like that's what we think of Jamaica is like, it's this tourist spot. And it's all like, let's do the limbo and, like let's have a rum and and dance on the beach. Like, so to me, it could be that they were going for an attempt at a juxtaposition of this like real gritty life versus the tourist American life. Like,
okay,
like it could, to me, it would have been better if they would have shown like a liner cruiser ship coming in on the same beach, a nearby.
What if they don't linger on it because that's like, there's nothing to see here. This happens every day.
Every day. Yeah. I like that.
Life goes on. People are dancing.
Yep.
Like that's it.
Yep.
A hit is a hit, baby. I mean, to talk about the song selection for, or I guess the variety, maybe like earlier on, Heather mentioned like how it opens with like so many songs early on. There was a really big gap between like watching it recently and the last time I saw it. And I did not remember that. Not that I would have anyway, but like watching it again, I was like, oh God, that's a lot of songs. That's not sustainable. And then I'm like, oh, they're going to just keep playing. But like, honestly, but honestly, like I think the impact is after that movie, those songs are so familiar to you.
Yeah.
Because you've already heard them a second time, like they're already familiar in the context of the film, and that gives them such a big presence in the culture. And looking at that soundtrack, the actual songs on the soundtrack, those are some of the absolute biggest songs in reggae.
Yeah,
from that period at least, but like in reggae.
Actually, that brings us to another one of our call-ins, another member of our new film club. We got here Mida Goodwin from the This Is Ska radio show. Wanted to call in. Here he goes. B.
Hi, this is Mida Goodwin, host of This Is Ska, hearing on 36 stations around the world. We're talking about The Harder They Come. I personally didn't see the movie until about a decade after it came out in the mid-'80s, but my father had bought the soundtrack early on, and so I was just fascinated by it, listened to it over and over again, and so later on when two-tone hit in the late 70s, early 80s, I was already familiar with many of the songs that were being played and delved even deeper. In 1984, I was obsessed with the movie. I would rent it from the library or check it out from the library and watch it on repeat. And that was really a big introduction to Jamaican rocksteady, ska, and the culture. And couldn't look back. I mean, just about every song on the soundtrack is a hit. From Get It If You Really Want by Jimmy Cliff to the Maytals, Sweet and Dandy, Johnny Too Bad by the Slickers, Desmond Decker's Shantytown, Pressure Drop, again by the Maytals, just song after song. Thanks again for doing the podcast, and enjoy.
So yeah, Heather, when did you say you experienced the soundtrack in relation to the film?
So I definitely was familiar with the soundtrack before. I listened to the soundtrack before the film. You know, all of these songs, I think I listened to, well, not all of them, but like most all of them, if not all of them, I listened to outside of the soundtrack too. It's not like I was like, I'm going to get this soundtrack and listen to all these cool songs. It was like I was familiar with Pressure Drop and, you know, and Johnny Too Bad from other, you know, other compilations or whatever I was listening to. Because I was born in 72, so I can't, if I had been young enough to have been like, I don't know, 20 in 1972 or something like that and experienced it as like, I'm going to watch this movie and, listen to all this great music. And, you know, if that had that kind of an effect on me, that would have been, I think, super cool. Because that's what I think that's what Perry Hensel was, one of his objectives is to, you know, put really good music in this soundtrack so that people could then be introduced to this music this way.
Well, I was just going to say, like, if this movie had bad music, it would be really authentic to this movie. It's like there's not like you know that the people in this world aren't around bad music. Like it would be so awkward if it was like a shit soundtrack.
Would we pay attention to this movie if it weren't for the soundtrack?
Well, so yeah, that's part of it is like, yeah, I think it's real easy to write this movie off as amateur, but
Yeah.
I look at it under an analytical lens because of the reggae, because of the music that matters to me. And so then because I look at it a little closer, do I see the other things?
Yeah.
Otherwise I would have just like, like it really is easy to dismiss this as like a low budget, like as you would a regular like horror movie, just like, oh yeah, they're having fun.
Yeah.
The music makes you look harder. The looking harder makes you see more.
Right.
And I'm very grateful that we looked a little harder.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm glad we started with this one. I think there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting too that as many times as we've all seen it here, like we still have a lot of questions about it and we're still curious about things and seeing new things every time we watch it too. So I think that's a real testament to the quality of the film.
So I guess we should ask, is this movie ska canon? Ska Canon is a segment where we, a podcast film club, look at the musical and cultural impact and decide whether or not The Harder They Come is essential viewing for all ska people everywhere. Heather, do ska people need to see this movie?
Oh, I say 100% yes. Yes. Soundtrack alone, yes, definitely. Because I think that what you learn from this film is really a fictional but snapshot that's fairly accurate, that you would need to have this kind of as a foundation to really appreciate the music deeper.
Yeah, Matt, can you imagine having an appreciation of ska without seeing this movie?
Well, I can imagine thinking you have an appreciation for ska without seeing this movie. I think that this is such a foundational thing, partly because it's like the first film made by Jamaicans for Jamaicans in Jamaica, the fact that it's got a at the time not superstar, but now reggae superstar as the protagonist, and this like absolutely out of this world. Like this soundtrack is one of the best albums of all time, and it's a soundtrack for a movie made in Jamaica. Like it's a stunning piece of like Jamaican culture that's connected to this music. Like I feel like there's no way you can't make this an essential part of like, I mean, I'm not judging anybody
That's
that
how I
hasn't
feel.
seen it, that doesn't want to see it, but like this is clearly an essential part of it. It.
No, and I think that's like part of what Mida was talking about in his call was just like this, like finding it and wearing it out. Like, I feel like finding this movie was kind of a rite of passage. Like there was a lot of blockbusters, a lot of Hollywood videos, a lot of videotape stores, rental stores when I was a youth, but you had to ask every single one of them, do you have Harder They Come? Like, and even saying those words, it's not a fun title to say to some like video store clerk. It sounds nasty.
That's in the back room in the adult section, sir.
No, I swear it's about reggae. I'm cool.
I'm sorry, the gay Harder They Come.
No, and I really do feel like it was something like you heard about, you had to go see, and once you saw it, like it really did change how you visualize Jamaican music. Like it's one thing to hear, you can hear all the Jamaican music you want, but once you see that studio, once you see like how just sweaty everybody is, and once you see what a yard looks like, and just like I don't know, it just like it really does affect so much to see it.
It's the context. It was like the first context.
It gives you the context.
It was like the first context for most people.
Definitely.
All right, so as far as we're gonna start putting movies into the canon, I say we're gonna put Harder They Come in, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Guys, we're doing a new show. We're just trying our best. No, is there anything else we need to add here about Harder They Come? Are there any like stray thoughts or anything that we didn't?
Oh, well, I was doing some Googling. And I found a quote in The Guardian from Carl Bradshaw, who played Jose in the film.
Yeah.
And he said, "The Harder They Come did end up triggering the Jamaican film industry, but it took 4 years to get the film finished. Island Records founder Chris Blackwell had to come to the rescue with money and connections." Outside,
finished it.
Outside Kingston, the film took off very slowly. When Perry first took it to England, there was no audience. He put up posters and gave away seats. Then the magic started. And I apparently need to pay to see what the magic was.
So, but it needed that like promotional bump from Island Records. It came after the fact, not silent investor money at the beginning, which I was guessing at.
No, that's yes.
Finishing
Do you guys
money.
see the irony in this? Do you see the irony in this? It's like The Harder They Come is this little country little country film like Ivan. And it needs a big-time producer who's got all the power, Chris Blackwell, holds all the cards. And this was a success story, but not for Ivan. I don't know.
That's fair.
I did want to mention, I guess if we're talking stray thoughts, I did read, and it was unsubstantiated, Alton Ellis plays a body double.
I did read that too.
Of Ivan at some point.
I was about to say
that. The only time I hear anybody mention any body doubles for Ivan is in the fight scene. So I guess I have to ask, is that Alton Ellis in the fight with Longa? Like, I guess shot from the back, maybe? I don't know what. Like, yeah, it's a very quickly, roughly shot scene. So I didn't go back and like freeze frame anything, but like.
All right. So if you're a listener, go ahead and get a screenshot, get a screen cap of Alton Ellis. Show us. I bet you can. I bet somebody out there can do it.
Yeah, compare it to your own picture at home of Alton Ellis's hindquarter and see if it happens to match.
Yes, we'll go through the 3D database of all known photos of Alton Ellis.
Everybody's got a poster of him with a knife shot from the back. Right? Well, this concludes the first episode of the Hornpod Film Club, and we're very excited to have you here. We're going to do one a month. Hopefully I think we're shooting for the first Monday of the month.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you want to push back Dance Craze? You want to do something else? Should we talk about this real quick?
Yeah, we were supposed to do that because we wanted to do Dance Craze, but we don't want to. We were talking about doing it after the DVD was out because that's coming out.
Yeah, I just pre-ordered the soundtrack.
Did you?
Ooh.
Yeah, they remastered it.
The footage looks nice.
I don't know, sometime in February, I think. I don't know.
Okay, we should definitely push it back. So let's pick another movie real quick.
I was thinking Grosse Pointe might set the pace real nice.
Okay, that'd be great.
Explicitly
Yes,
ska,
yes.
but it also is like what I'm trying to do.
Let's do
right?
Grosse Pointe Blank.
First Monday of the month, and for March, we're going to discuss Grosse Pointe Blank from, I think, 1997. So go ahead and give that a fresh viewing, and we'll throw up some links here pretty soon on where you might be able to check that out. And give us a call with your thoughts and memories, and maybe even conversational prompts at 16 Hornpod 15. And if you enjoy this, I encourage you to go back and check out our back catalog where Matt and I talk ska and all of this kind of thing ad nauseum.
Mostly records, mostly not movies.
Heather, you're the best. I appreciate you accommodating us and everything.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to just kind of chat and hang out and think with you guys. It was really fun.
It's fun to think with you too.
Can't think of anybody I want to think with.
And you really class up the place, honestly. Like you bring some dignity to this little ragtag NPR wannabe.
Aw, shucks. Thanks.
So hey, I'm Matt Wixon, and I'm a big film fan. Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.